I was born 87 years ago. For 3 years, I ruled as a TTV message board's moderator, but for all these years, I've never been the ruler of my own dreams. I have seen the gates of oblivion, beyond which no waking eye may see. Behold, in darkness, a doom sweeps the land. This is the third of Sun's height, the year of Akatosh 2020. These are the closing days of the Third Era, and the final hours of my life. Hello and welcome to Modcast 63. I am your host, John Smith.
I am also a host. I don't know if you've ever heard of me. My name is Political Slime. And we have joining with us guests.
I am Kan. That's all I have to say about myself. Thank you for having me here.
Zev, who are you?
I am a person who happens to have once upon a time been on the TTV message boards.
I believe he is a member of the Dark Brotherhood.
I am not. I am a prolific Daedra hunter.
Are you here to assassinate me?
You're not really a Daedra.
He's old enough to be one.
Oh yeah, you're right. I guess I better get him.
So, John, for whom does the Elder Scroll?
It scrolls the time of your life until you play Morrowind.
The thing about Morrowind that, for me, immediately turned it off is that it is one of the least user-friendly games that I've played, at least to my modern sensibilities. I just didn't really understand, because it's not a video game. It's a tabletop RPG disguising itself as a video game. And once you get that into frame of mind, everything makes sense. Because when you attack, it's not that you're actually attacking, it's a dice roll.
The original game started as the developer's D&D campaign just turned into a game.
I haven't really gotten that far into it. I'm sure you guys can expand upon the story of Morrowind and how it is a good story.
Something you have to understand about the Elder Scrolls, maybe not only Morrowind, but as a whole series, is that with a couple of exceptions, the main story isn't really the main catch. When you think of story and anything related to it in an Elder Scrolls, you always tend to think about the lore, about the story that goes behind the tables, the descriptions of the items, of the kingdoms you're in and everything. That's what gives this general mood, and it gets you invested into the story. In regards to Morrowind, story-wise, it's actually one of those exceptions which the story is well written, I would say, if you have the patience to go through the main steps of it. The story just keeps developing and you just realize it's going better.
I think you're right on the spot, Gan.
I played through a good portion of Skyrim for Frame of Context, and also probably for Frame of Context. How much have you guys played the Elder Scrolls?
My guess would be a lot.
It's on obscure Nokia.
Oh, you poor soul.
Including Battlespire, including Redguard. And I'm going to go out on a limb to say I enjoyed Battlespire and Redguard.
I mean, I like the concept behind Battlespire because a big dungeon where you can go with your friends or people online and play through with all these monsters and foes from the Elder Scrolls mythos, that actually sounds really cool.
Basically plays like, what if Elder Scrolls was a Doom game? Except you can also talk to the monsters sometimes. Talking to the monsters is the biggest draw to Battlespire if I had to argue any of them. Battlespire is also the first time that the Daedra were really expanded upon. Daggerfall kinda did it, but Battlespire really did it. A lot of them are early presentations of the Daedra, so you don't get as refined as what we know, especially after Morrowind, because Morrowind codified a lot of what we know of Elder Scrolls, which is another reason why it's so heralded, is because a lot of the good aspects that people like in Elder Scrolls started with it. Anyways, Battlespire, you get to talk to a lot of the Daedra and kind of pick at their brain, as it were. To this day, for a lot of Daedra types, that is our only look at how they think. Some of the later ones, ESO, a little bit of Skyrim, a little bit of Oblivion, did give us some glimpses into their heads, but none as thorough as Battlespire.
I might still have to take that game fully because I'm actually really interested about it.
It makes Morrowind look like the most modern, streamlined thing ever.
Oh my god.
That's saying something.
It's in this really weird graphical state where it's like half 3D, half sprite.
I mean, so did Daggerfall then. Daggerfall was a remarkable success, if I do say so myself.
Okay, yes, but Daggerfall was a lot more sprite. It had some 3D, but the majority was sprite. Battlespire was this weird, like, 50-50.
When I associate 3D with Daggerfall, I just think of those horrible dungeons in Daggerfall that seems to go on forever.
Okay, well, I would still consider those to be mostly sprite art, but yeah, I get what you mean. Daggerfall had some
Man.
super non-Euclidean dungeons could loop around on each other and all that crap. Something that Battlespire fixed, because Battlespire was the first Elder Scrolls game with handmade dungeons.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because every level of Battlespire is handmade. Redguard also followed up. It also has handmade dungeons. ESO is a bit of a prequel to Redguard. In Redguard, the wars that happened in ESO are mentioned. They mentioned some big wars going on in Cyrodiil, which led up to, eventually to Tiber Septim arriving. And Tiber Septim arriving heralds the events of Redguard.
oh, Tiber Septim.
By the time of ESO, Septim's not even born yet.
What I'm getting out of this conversation is that Xevins must have played the Elder Scrolls for thousands of hours. Tens of thousands.
I have, actually.
Can I ask a question?
No, but go ahead.
Who are the Daedra again?
They're like anti-gods of sorts.
Okay.
Like demons, but not always evil. They generally encompass some personality trait, and that is their personality to a T. If that personality trait could be used to do good or evil things, then they will do good or evil things.
For example, is there like a Daedra of anger?
Yeah, precisely.
Yes.
That will be Maroon's Dagon, which is a prince
Well,
of
he's
destruction.
change. Usually violent change, but change.
Is it like trees or nature?
That's usually more of an Aedric thing. Not saying that there aren't any Daedras that are tree related, but
The Aedra are like the main gods. That's the easiest way to think of it.
when Nirn, which is the planet, was created, there was two types of spirits. Those that helped with the creation of the planet and those that didn't. The ones that helped were the Aedra. The ones that didn't were the Daedra. A lot of the Aedra, there's so much fewer of them because one of three things happened to them. They either gave up almost all of their power in the creation of, and they're basically just a fundamental force of Nirn. Those are called Earthbones. Then there's another category which they stayed somewhat powerful enough to be the Nine Divines. They became basically the gods of most pantheons. And the final category are the Aedra. A guy named Lorcan tricked the spirits into creating Nirn. And the Aedra, led by Magnus, who was the original architect of, they all said, nah man, we don't want to do this, we'll give up our power. So they all just booked it, and they left literal holes in the sky where magical energy is coming. The biggest one is the sun. That's where Magnus left. The rest of them are the stars. That's where the rest of them left.
Sure, why not?
Keep this in mind, Slime. This is the patched down version of it.
This is what terrifies me, is how much you guys are like leaving out just for the sake of sanity.
The Daedra is kind of weird because, as a general rule, they are all the spirits that are not Aedra. But
Okay.
one of them, Meridia, was actually an Aedra, I guess came back sort of, and did too many deals with the Daedra. So the rest of the Aedra are just like, no, we don't like you anymore. You're basically a Daedra. And so now everyone calls her a Daedra.
Think of Daedra as each one is their own Loki of sorts. They all have their own level of mischief and manipulation over the mortal world and what they do with the mortal. They don't have any
Yes.
interest in their lives whatsoever, only those that bend to their will and follow their orders.
They're all means to an end, and if you're kind of doing what they want, they might give you a toy, like a Daedric artifact, which is an incredibly powerful object, but to the Daedra, it's just a toy.
And they may also make you do horrible things to get it.
It can be anything from go kill this person I really don't like just because I want them dead, to you're going to destabilize the population of this area just because I think it's fun.
What exactly are the Elder Scrolls?
Oh boy.
The first thing I think we should say, I don't think they appeared at all until Oblivion.
Oblivion finally gave us a glimpse of what they are, but even then it didn't fully explain it. These are ancient scrolls that date back to like the dawn of time, and they have like prophecy, and the people who read them, well, one, you're probably not going to understand it if you do try to read it. You have to study for years to understand what you are looking at. If you read it, depending on the amount of training you have, you will eventually go blind.
Do they predate the whole creation of the world then?
Not
That's
precise.
the real
I just wanted to
question.
hear it.
A lot of the theories are that they are from about the time of the creation. In fact, some people would go so far as to say that some of the Earthbones just became scrolls.
How would you say lore is most often communicated in Morrowind, for example? Because just playing through Skyrim, I noticed that there's a lot of lore in books.
Two major ways: books, dialogue. There's a few other ways. There is a pair of novels, The Infernal City and Lord of Souls. And the final way is out-of-game developer, whatever they're saying.
It's voice of God at that point.
Except
Right.
Word of God frequently doesn't agree with itself.
But then it also makes its way into the games sometimes.
There's no bigger source of Word of God than Michael Kirkbride.
Michael Kirkbride is the epitome of absolute degeneracy and madness in towards Elder Scrolls. He is the mastermind, the machinator, the overseer of creation, basically.
The big thing he did that everyone associates with him was Morrowind. It would be false to say that he was the only one responsible, but he was a big person in it. If you want to ask someone who will actually answer your questions, the best person I can point you to is Lady N. She is the most knowledgeable person I have ever met in Elder Scrolls regards.
Is this the famed Lady Nerevar?
This
Yes.
is the same,
Am I getting people mixed up, or is she married to Michael Kirkbride?
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, we both think so we're probably right.
Guys, are you ready to have some real huge fun? I'm going to say the word. Dragonbreak.
I played
Every
the
word,
old
every
World
word you say is
Dimensions.
just like...
Dragon breaks are basically when mortals do something so stupid. Okay, not always mortals, but usually it's mortals. When they do something so stupid that Akatosh, who is the god of time and leader of the main Aedra, something so stupid that he just briefly has a bit of a headache at what we're doing. And so multiple timelines will converge, and exactly how they converge is different for every Dragon Break. The big ones are the Warp in the West, which made every ending to Daggerfall simultaneously canon, and the Red Moment, which is very important to Morrowind. There was a big war at Red Mountain. The Dwemer were involved, Daggerfall was involved, the Tribunal were involved. But at this point, the Tribunal were not gods.
Do Dwemer actually physically appear in any games? The two games that I've played thus far, it has been ancient Dwemer ruins, but like they don't actually exist anymore.
You meet their ghosts. So really, it's just Morrowind.
Aha.
If you ever look for the last Dwemer in Morrowind, I don't know how prepared are you to face the model that they chose for him.
He is not in his prime. He is suffering from an eldritch abomination disease that is being kept in check by a 4,000-year-old wizard who has his own weirdness.
What is this series? Just every word you say is just like adds a whole like another aspect to it. It's incredible.
We haven't even gotten into the Word of God stuff yet. We're just on stuff that's in the games.
Everything we said sounds baby talk.
Let's switch gears to basics. What was your first Elder Scrolls game? How did you find it? And what made you grow interest in the franchise?
My first game was the greatest game ever made. The Living God, Todd Howard. It just exploded out of his mind like the birth of Athena because it's just so utterly perfect and brilliant. Of course, I'm talking about Skyrim.
I've seen a lot of people that didn't really like Skyrim, not because of the mechanics or everything, but basically because he just introduced a lot of people to the franchise. And that was kind of the case for me because I tried Oblivion before and I kind of liked it, but I wasn't much on RPGs. First time I got into RPGs was with games like Fable or Diablo. And when I recall having those uninstalled from my PC, somehow Skyrim was not uninstalled, so I tried it. And by the time I got the full Imperial set and I was on Riverwood, I realized that I had this sense of open world and everything. And I was hooked already. I was like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Fun stuff. And I think that's something that people seem to underestimate about Skyrim being the initial game for someone to introduce to the series.
My story is a little similar. My friend introduced me to Minecraft, and I wanted to learn how to play Minecraft. So I started watching Paul Soares Jr.'s tutorials. And eventually I learned he also did a Skyrim series. So I started watching the Skyrim series, and I'm like, oh heck, what is this game? I want to play it. But I couldn't afford Skyrim. So I went searching through my game collection, which is partially hand-me-downs. And one thing I found was the Game of the Year edition of Wind for the original Xbox. So I'm like, oh hey, discount Skyrim.
Legendary.
Morrowind. Discount
Discount
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
I'm gonna call it that from now on.
What would you say it's your favorite, and which one would you say it's the best?
My favorite Elder Scroll game is Elder Scrolls Blades. It's I do like Skyrim in many ways. There is always a deep part of me that unfairly compares those games to Breath of the Wild. The climbing mechanic really changes the way you interact with the world.
Daggerfall actually had a climbing mechanic, but it was a horrible one if you ask me.
Breath of the Wild focuses on more like kind of the gameplay parts of simulation, like you can interact with a lot of different things. Elder Scrolls has those elements as well, but not to the same degree. It focuses more on the lore side of things.
There is a part of me that does appreciate Morrowind, the way that it introduces you to stuff.
But throwing you to the wolves?
Yeah, basically. There's something cool about Morrowind. But also, the menu system is dumb, and I will fight physically anyone on that fact.
Slime, I will physically fight you too, because Morrowind has one of my favorite user interface out of all of my games. I really like it because I've played stuff like Diablo before, and that game has a not so user-friendly interface. I mean, it has all these sorts of
There's
menus
nothing as user-friendly as Arx Vitalis.
Oh, Arx Vitalis is another thing. The point I'm trying to make is, Slime, you're dumb.
Okay. My problem stems from the fact that when I'm playing through a game on PC where it is first person, controlling the mouse around controls the camera, I'm not thinking of the mouse as being a mouse. I'm thinking of the mouse as being a joystick, which is, I think, the core as to why it feels clunky to me. I also really didn't like the graphics when I first played it, but also I think that might have just been me looking at it too harshly because it was released in, 1990?
2002.
I'm older than Morrowind?
Yeah.
I thought for sure it came out in the 90s.
Nope.
No, man.
I was going to say, for its time release, those are pretty decent graphics. Knowing it's 2002, that kind of changes my opinions on it a little bit.
Something else to keep in mind is that Morrowind was a ginormous game with a 6-year development cycle created by a pretty small team of people, I think 30 people at the most. You can't really expect it to be top tier graphics.
Every Bethesda style game have undershot in the graphic department because they want the game to run. Because every one of them is this massive that you have to explore, and in general they have way more interactivity than their peers.
I grew with the PlayStation, and I really like those low poly graphics. When I came to Morrowind, it really did call to me because it was like those old games from PC, and I was like, oh, I really like this aesthetic.
I don't think we ever did actually answer the question, what's everyone's favorite Elder Scrolls game, and why is it Morrowind?
It has to be Skyrim, mate. I've just put so much time. If I were to think objectively, I would say the best one is obviously Shadowkey.
You say that, but actually, it seems like Todd Howard in his statement seems to really like Shadow.
I'm sorry, did you say God Howard?
The man himself.
Is there a Todd Howard equivalent Aedra?
No.
Or Daedra,
But
for
I
that
will
matter.
say there is a lore master Shik Stihio.
I think Todd Howard is the adoring fan.
The only thing I can compare Todd Howard to in game is Sanguine? I don't know. No, scratch it. Todd Howard likes money. He's actually senator.
Todd Howard is an enantiomorph made up of all the characters we've mentioned.
Let's go with that.
The M63, he just comes into the stage, he looks deeply into the audience, and he just goes, game. And he just leaves.
You know he could do that. He would do it.
In conclusion, Morrowind is the best game ever made, and everyone who disagrees should be cast into oblivion.
In conclusion, I like them all, and I'm such a stupid fanboy.
In conclusion, Slime's dumb because he doesn't like Morrowind's UI. Point. Period.
In conclusion, I will play Morrowind one day. It won't be soon, but I will play it.
Payasura, Payasura, Payasura!